Testament Greek at EDS. So I'm still working full time, but I just wanted to take this one class and kind of get a sense of seminary as part of my discernment for my call. Trouble is, I didn't have money for the class, and it met in the middle of the work week. I couldn't imagine a way around this impasse. It seemed to be there was just no way this class was going to happen. However, once I started making my wishes known, doors magically started opening. The money for the class dropped in my lap, and my boss happily gave me time off every week to attend, which totally was astonishing. The impossible became a reality. Now, in our reading from Genesis, Sarah and her husband Abraham are each over 100 years old, and they have no children together. They have long given up hope for what looks to be impossible. But then one day, 3 travelers stop by their tent. And in the hospitality common at the time, Abraham washes their feet and has a meal prepared for them. Suddenly, it becomes clear that these 3 mysterious strangers are, in fact, God. And the Almighty says to Abraham that he will return in the spring, at which time Sarah will bear a long-awaited son. She overhears this and thinks it's crazy talk. So she has a very rational response, frankly, and Sarah laughs. But God pushes back and asks Abraham, why did Sarah laugh and say, shall I indeed bear a child now that I am old? God continues, is anything too wonderful for the Lord? I have greatly enjoyed meeting people and learning about Trinity this past week, and the many ways that you are strong in fellowship and community and faith in the gospel. I am very happy to be with you, and I'm looking forward to serving with you for a time. I've also come to appreciate the many challenges you have faced during this transition period. The retiring of a longtime rector, not 1, but 2 interims, now a bridge priest. In other words, you had 4 priests spanning a period of just over 2 years, plus an international pandemic and economic crisis, a hold on the search process, not being able to connect with each other or worship together, and now social and racial unrest in the streets and on the web. As I heard one person jokingly say, we now know that everyone who was asked 5 years ago, where do you see yourself in 5 years, got the answer wrong. You are grieving a tremendous amount of loss and facing a tremendous amount of upheaval, both as a parish and as citizens of this nation. This is not an easy time for Trinity. Things seem crazy, and you may wonder if you will ever get through this period intact. Just remember that when faced with crazy, Sarah laughs. When the pandemic closings hit in early March, I assumed that it would be for a few weeks, but as the reality set in as to the scope of the illness, it became clear that this would last much longer. All parishes had to do this quick presto changeo and move online just in a matter of days. As one friend from seminary noted, we've all overnight become televangelists. This is not the church we had prepared for, nor is it the kind of church any parishioner had expected to attend, and yet here we are. And Sarah laughs. People are sick and dying of COVID. We live in fear of catching it. Social gatherings are limited. The future is unclear. The economy and stock market are falling. Jobs are shaky or lost, especially among those who can least afford it. Businesses are failing. Leadership is lacking. And the world seems to have gone topsy-turvy overnight. We grieve the past. The present is crazy, and the future is completely unknown. We want the world to be whole, healthy, and at peace. But is this possible? And Sarah laughs. This past Thursday night, Michael Thompson hosted a wonderful Zoom meeting for the parish to discuss our feelings and thoughts around the issue of racism. It was a heartfelt and meaningful gathering as participants shared their fears, concerns, and hopes. Participants also shared their insights and moments of awakening to the horror and pervasiveness of racism. What can we do? How do we protest and make real change? We have no interest in following the minority path of violence, and we do have a great desire to follow Jesus's path of repentance, reconciliation, and restorative justice. But the whole situation seems overwhelming. And Sarah laughs. The continuation of the story of Abraham and Sarah is that despite Sarah's disbelief and skeptical laughter, God's outrageous prediction comes true. Of all the possible outcomes, the most joyful one comes to pass. Sarah gives birth to a son in her old age, and she and Abraham name the boy Isaac, which in Hebrew means he laughs. This elderly couple, who had never expected to be parents, are delighted with a miracle. So while Sarah's laughter continues, it changes. The laughter changes from skeptical laughter to joyful laughter. As Sarah says after the birth, God has brought laughter for me. Everyone who hears me will laugh with me. The impossible becomes a reality. Have you ever had a situation that seemed there was no way forward, and then suddenly something opened up? In what ways do we limit the possibilities of God? In these challenging times, can we laugh? Can we see the light? Can we imagine the impossible becoming a reality? The astonishing thing about God is that it is often when we come to the end of the line, when we believe that there are no other options, that is when the unimaginable opens up. Things start happening that weren't even in our wildest dreams. And the truth is, we can never throw up our hands and say, well, that's it. God's vision of the future is always broader than ours. Does this mean that we will not suffer loss or grief along the way? Unlikely. But it does mean that these challenging times are not the end of the story. And sometimes it is the challenging times that are the ones which slingshot us forward into a bright tomorrow most quickly. As we learn from Jesus, it is only through death that we were able to resurrect. Could it be that this rector transition period will allow new possibilities to flourish for Trinity? Could it be that this pandemic will draw the nations of the world closer to each other as we fight a common foe? Could it be that the current economic challenges will cause the globe to reimagine how economies work so that people are no longer left behind? Could it be that the current protests and uprising against systemic racism will finally be the catalyst shifting laws and opinions to treat all God's children as brothers and sisters? And we are not called to do the impossible alone, but to live lives of compassion, love, and restorative justice while trusting in the mercy of God to make up the difference. Could the impossible become a reality? Don't let our fears limit the future. Open ourselves up. We need to open ourselves up to the possibilities of joy and laughter and miracles happening by God's grace. God is a master of overcoming the impossible. As he says, is anything too wonderful for the Lord? In the movie, The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel, which I love, by the way, the hotel manager, Patel, offers his wisdom as he says, everything will be all right in the end. If it's not all right, it's not yet the end. May our laughter, like Sarah's, shift from skepticism into joy. Amen.